In the second scene, Jesus goes to the temple in Jerusalem. This is the first of 3 Passovers for John, and you recall that John is unique among the gospel writers because he includes 3 visits to Jerusalem for the Passover, not just one. In this visit to Jerusalem, Jesus goes to the temple, and what he observes there is the fact that there is the selling of animals and the exchange of money. Now, there's a historical reason why these animals are being sold in the temple courts. The Feast of Passover included some sacrifices that were required by the visitors. And since people were traveling from all over the region, they would not travel with their sacrificial animals. And so they would need to buy animals when they arrived. In the same way, their coins, their Greek and Roman coins, were not acceptable in the temple because they contained the image of Caesar on them. In Matthew, Mark, and Luke, the focus is on turning the temple into a den of robbers. In John, the focus is on the zeal of Jesus, where John quotes Psalm 69, verse 9, where it says, "Your zeal will consume me." So the focus between the Synoptic Gospels and John's Gospel is slightly different. John is not so much concerned about the den of robbers. What he is concerned about is the practice itself. So as Jesus quotes Psalm 69 in the Gospel of John, the attention here is on the fact that Jesus' zeal, his desire to change things in the temple, will eventually consume him. It is in the future tense. Zeal for your temple will consume me. It will consume him because the religious leaders will put him to death for these kinds of things that he does in his ministry. His zeal to usher in God's new revelation, his final banquet, to open up the wedding feast, will replace what they're used to in the temple with its rites of purification, with its animal sacrifices, and they will kill him as a result. His zeal will, in fact, result in him being consumed by the Jewish leaders. But there's another dual meaning here as well. The dual meaning of the word temple. Jesus makes it clear. He makes a connection between destroy this temple and in 3 days it will be rebuilt. He was referring to his body. He was referring to his death and resurrection. They thought he was referring to the building. So again, we have a story of misunderstanding. Again, we have a story of dual meanings in the word temple. But again, we have a reference to 3 days and Jesus' death and resurrection. Each of these scenes, Jesus at the wedding feast in Cana and Jesus in the temple in Jerusalem, both have connections and are foreshadowings of Jesus' death and his resurrection. The Word has become flesh. Jesus in his flesh is the revelation of God. He is the embodiment of all the symbols of the Old Testament, all the teachings of the Old Testament. He is not just the fulfillment, but he himself is the embodiment of all those things. Hope you'll join us next time as we take a look at John chapter 3.